Sonia. Yeah. Well, I guess you can all hear me, and I'd just like to let you know that I can't see you because of those lights, so you can pull as many faces or as many of these as you like, and we won't feel hurt. So thanks very much indeed for coming along. One of my jobs is to introduce Fletcher, and you will have read the short introduction in the program, which says that he's a passionate entrepreneur, pilot and aviation safety expert with 2 national flying titles. He started the global television show FlightpathTV and runs an international aircraft sales and parts supply business. He's served on a number of aviation trusts, one of which I've been on myself, and executive committees. And he's successfully published 7 previous books aimed at pilots, for which he is widely known in aviation circles around the world. And I might also say he's a motivational speaker. He started his aviation career in the Air Training Corps gliding camp, and went from there. This book focused on New Zealand pilots, but his other books, in the process of producing them, he's interviewed literally hundreds of international pilots as well, and he notes this in the preface. Nearly 20 of these folks have perished in aircraft accidents, which is something that we'll be covering later on in this session. He's very much a multi-talented entrepreneur, and just by way of example, one of the companies he works with is an international aircraft parts business, and Fletcher's currently supervising the dismantling of the RNZAF P3 Orion fleet out here at our very own Woodburn, and those parts will be spread to the 4 winds, hopefully for a substantial profit. Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
And I just might mention that during his visit here, he's conducted 2 sessions for Marlborough schools. He's spoken to students at Marlborough Boys and Marlborough Girls College, hopefully inspiring some of these young folks to get into aviation. He's a very, very mobile entrepreneur. He's forever travelling. And in fact, when I first contacted him to discuss in the early stages a couple of weeks ago, he answered me from New York.
Yes.
So without further ado, Fletcher.
Thank you. Wow.
So, sorry, away you go.
No, I was just, I thought my mum had bought all the tickets, so it's good to see people here.
Yeah, no, we've got a good turnout. So Fletcher's going to be reading some excerpts from his book in a little while, but I thought, first of all, I'd just ask Fletcher if he could just give us a rundown on how he himself was inspired to enter the world of aviation and how it has sustained him since.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Des. Thanks for the introduction. I guess my dad influenced me. He always talked about planes, and as a kid, he gave me his scrapbook and from the 50s, and from obviously him growing up the 40s and 50s. Also got a balsa wood P40 Kitty Hawk that he handcrafted, used little sewing pins, and of course he gave it to me, I think, too young, because I broke the tail off, of which I can't even fix, because it's just handcrafted so nicely. Even hand painted the decals. I also got a DC-3 model, because he actually worked for NAC for 3 years as a clerk. So my dad never flew planes, and that was probably the coolest thing. On his 65th birthday, I took him flying in a 172, took him over the house, and yeah, it was pretty special. Sadly, he was getting unwell at that stage, but it was definitely a great memory of taking my dad flying.
Yeah, and I noticed in your book there, so many of the pilots that you presented in the New Zealand situation, their interest in aviation has come from a family member, and many of them, their parents have been, both parents, or some of them, both parents have been pilots.
Yeah, and that was probably the one thing I wanted in this book, was really to understand and say, well, what inspired you? What got you interested? I mean, I remember Terry Delore, goes, I was trying to have a ciggy. I can't remember what he was saying, but then he saw these gliders, and he just went, wow, what's this? And then he turns up again. Of course, next minute he's flying hang gliders. But just to understand the inspiration behind it. And then the fact that I knew quite a few people that, were daughters or sons of pilots, I just thought it was really cool just to hear the different stories.
And in fact, in your book, there's more than one example of husband and wife partnerships that are both pilots, mother and son, father and daughter. So how commonplace do you think that is?
I personally don't think it's common, but I think there's always an influence, and hearing your story as well, and it's amazing to hear the influences behind it, and maybe is it romantic? Maybe it's a romantic thing of aviation and people flying, and hearing, I met Bill Reed years ago, who's a local, but hearing about his father as well, and him flying helicopters in England when helicopters were kind of brand new, was pretty cool hearing those stories.
Now you're going to read us some excerpts from your book. Would you like to do one of those now?
Sure.
Or in fact, you can do more than one if you like right now. So.
I'm just trying to think of which one I should pick, actually. I've got a few. There's 23 to choose from, of course. I'm going to do this because at some stage there's going to be a video, and you're going to see quite an interesting video. So this is Phil Hooker. He wanted to be obviously known as Hooks with a Z. And so this is in 2014. I was in China for a year, which again, GA in China is quite interesting. Fixed-wing aircraft I was testing to be marketed as capable of doing spins. Now, I don't know the audience, of course. With a spin, with training, there's not a lot of aircraft that are actually certified to do spin training for pilots. So this was meant to be as a replacement because there's not a lot of aircraft on the market to actually do spin training. It's quite scary, actually, some pilots I know that have never done spin training. And I go,
Yeah, because a spin is something that you can get into accidentally.
Correct.
And if you don't know how to recover,
you can't get out.
There's only one result.
Yeah, sadly. Gravity takes over. So spin training, a particular model had a reputation for going into a flat spin and not recovering. An Aussie pilot sadly lost his life when he went to a flat spin, couldn't get out. And so for my peace of mind, I asked the company to install a BRS, so Ballistic Recovery System, the big parachute that pops out. Cirrus is pretty famous for that, which is a type of aircraft. He explains what that is, and he's already completed 100 spins in the aircraft, left, right, power on, power off, power dead, 5 spins, so going over a number of spins. And I was about to sign it off. Now, this particular day, it's quite interesting hearing about GA in China. He was doing engine pressure and temperature checks every 1,000 feet. And I had an initial clearance of up to 3,000 feet, but he couldn't get any higher because the military quite often will close the space down and you can't go flying because the military are flying in that space. So he couldn't get any higher. When I reached that mark, I decided I'd spin it back to lose 1,000 feet. And that's when we went into a flat spin. And it certainly got my attention. And you can see, I've actually put the clip online, which at some stage it should spin around, which is quite interesting. I remember finding the video, and I knew Hooks was actually in China. And I was going, God, that looks like Phil. But of course, there was, for him to try and get stuff out of China was pretty hard. And it was on YouTube by some random person. And of course I thought, no, maybe not, maybe it is. But of course, when I actually got to talk to him and actually do the interview, he said, yeah, that's me. So you actually count 27 times in a flat spin. And the coolest thing is, because he's pretty calm about it. You're spinning on your vertical axis. It was quite a smooth ride with hardly any noise outside, but it was like sitting in the hangar, playing with the controls, and nothing happened. I tried the standard way, I tried different ways, I tried putting the flaps down, engines, and then the engine stopped. The pilot needs 2 things in an emergency: skill and luck. If you have an engine failure in the middle of the ocean, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to go swimming. If you're over an international airport, you've got good luck. And if you've got poor skills, you'll miss the airport. In test flying, you make your own good luck, just in case. That day, it was my good fortune to be over a big swamp. So I went for the red handle to pull the parachute. I paused. Swamps are soft. I thought, well, there's a 10 to 12 minute breeze blowing that day, north-northwest. I wanted to spend minimal time under the parachute canopy. If I deployed at 2,000 feet, I would have missed the swamp and landed in the city with many pylons. So I wanted to be last minute. I pulled through 1,000 feet, the chute popped open and went straight into the swamp. And you see when he pulls it, you're just going, it's literally seconds. Now the flight manual says it takes 6 seconds to open this parachute. I was coming down at 3,000 feet a minute, 20 seconds per 1,000 feet. It was all going through his mind. If I pull at 1,000 feet, I've got 20 seconds. It only takes 6 seconds to open, so I've got plenty of time. And of course, I just pull it above the swamp. I did that, but it wasn't until I watched the video afterwards that I realized the parachute didn't actually fully open until 4 seconds before I hit the ground. In retrospect, should have pulled it earlier. But the interesting thing, because he goes on to say he actually went and saw BRS, and they said, hey, in a flat spin, it actually gets stuck in dirty air. So there's a lot of the air above the aircraft, of course, it's very dirty. So, of course, it wouldn't open. And, of course, they had to rewrite their manual because of hooks, which is pretty awesome. What else we got? So that's hooks, which is kind of cool. Should we talk about Eastie?
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So Eastie, very interesting chap. Everyone I talk to, and they say, oh, you've met Eastie. Everyone I speak to, they go, this guy is the most amazing pilot they've ever met. And it's funny because I was flying a Yak 52, a Russian trainer. So I'd never been flying that fast. And trying to do a circuit, I felt I was behind the aircraft. I don't know if there's any pilots in the audience, but you're behind the aircraft and you're sort of feeling, what's it going to do now? Whereas what I've heard about Eastie, he's so far ahead of the aircraft. He knows exactly what the aircraft's going to do and how he's going to do it. So, yeah, pretty awesome. All right, so 1996, I was selected to fly the Sepcat Jaguar with the Royal Air Force in the UK. It was a pretty competitive exchange program, and I had to sell myself as to why I should represent New Zealand. I won and flew Jaguars for the RAF until 1999, so 3 years. First, though, I flew the BAE Hawk T1, which is a jet trainer. I got to know the country, the procedures, bombing, dogfighting, and after 3 months I was posted to an operational conversion unit where I was converted to Jaguar at RAF Lossiemouth in Scotland. Then I was posted to 6th Squadron, which was one of the operational frontline squadrons directly involved in the active defence of the UK. Flying the Jaguar on the front line for 3 years was an amazing experience. Getting immersed in the culture of the RAF was a step up. In fact, it was almost off the charts. There was multiple Jaguar frontline squadrons, 6, 54 and 41, originally formed on 31st of January 1914 as part of the Royal Flying Corps, of course, World War I. 6th Squadron was older than the RNZAF and acquired prominence, history and legacy. And he goes on, which is kind of cool. I'm just trying to find. So he talks about the Jaguar as a twin-engine attack fighter with no radar, laser rangefinder, and high wing compared to a low wing. So it's high wing up the top. And I just want to hear. It was a handful to fly. It shouldn't have been used for green pilots, as in new pilots. There were pilots on my squadron who had ejected twice, pilots who had mishandled it doing 450 knots, and it swapped ends, as in, so that the pointy end was facing the wrong way. So, as he says, imagine the forces involved in that. It actually barely seems aerodynamically possible. And I actually had to write this in because, Penguin said quite often, hey, can you explain that? An aircraft can swap ends in a spin, which, going into a spin, which essentially is a type of uncontrolled and sustained stall, sometimes at very high speed, where one wing is more stalled than the other, causing the aircraft to rotate. The cool thing, he goes on to say, the defence budget allowed the Jaguar to be modified on a whim. Over the years, the RAF bolted on more and more state-of-the-art attachments and modifications. Basically, anything you could find off the shelf at Bunnings, is what he said, and it went straight onto the jet. And the missiles were on top of the wings as well as underneath. So pretty amazing hearing his story there. I'm going to try and find a lady. What have we got here?
While you're doing that, I just might mention, I was telling Fletcher before that one of my friends, when I was with the Royal Air Force, one of the guys in the squash team, he subsequently became a senior pilot on the Jaguar, and he was the only one to be, only Jaguar ever to get shot down. And he was shot down by a Phantom, which was also a Royal Air Force aircraft. And they used to do all their exercises with live weapons on the aircraft, because waiting for the Russians all the time, of course. And on this particular day, the guy armed the weapon when he was attacking the Jaguar, and he had to make the radio call, "I've shot down the Jaguar," and the other end of the line said, "Yes, well, you're supposed to shoot down." "No, I mean I really have shot down the Jaguar." Yeah, and luckily for Steve, he managed to eject, and he
lived to tell the tale.
lived to tell the tale. He's actually become a priest.
Wow.
Subsequently.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's maybe the second book. Yeah. Look, and the amazing thing I found as well, and a lot of people have said this, is I suppose I've just shared kind of very military stories, but the amazing thing with the aviation industry, there's just so much scope, and I guess that was a key thing as I looked at all the people and tried to understand the people that I guess I collect people over the years, and I went, well, that's a great story, that's interesting. I love the World War II stories, and a lot of the guys we'd interviewed for the TV show. But gliding, I tow gliders, which is awesome, and a Pawnee, good old Piper Pawnee, tail dragger, which is exhilarating quite often. Sometimes when the glider pilot's doing something weird, and you sort of next minute you're flying this way or you're going this way, and then you're trying to work out whether I actually need to pull the pin or not. But it's pretty interesting, and so I thought a gliding story is pretty would be worthwhile, and it's from Abby Delore, Terry Delore's daughter, and she was awesome to interview and just sounded so inspirational. Ironically, she broke a record with a lady that I knew through the Air Training Corps, McPherson, and it was pretty awesome to hear that story, because I'd heard it from Enya, but I'd never heard it from the other side, so it was quite funny hearing the other side of the story. So she says, "I also love the variety of the sport and exploring other places. Flying in Europe was awesome, although there's nothing like soaring around our southern Alps in New Zealand. I've flown several 1,000-kilometre flights with Terry, her father, but in 2022, soaring the length of New Zealand flight was a highlight." So Terry and Abby actually flew from Bluff, I think, I'm trying to think the actual point they took off from, up to Cape...
it said Bluff and to Cape Reinga.
Cape Reinga, which, in a glider, which is pretty awesome. Way better than I could ever do, which is pretty amazing. The flight and achievement was massive. It really hit home and meant a lot. Terry and I used all our available resources. I guess that's what I see glider pilots and how they just keep airborne, which is pretty awesome. Goes on to say, it was very many years in the making, multiple attempts. For me, it was a flight about community. People felt as though they were on board with us, which was pretty cool. They got involved and contributed in many ways together, showcasing our sport, capturing a wider audience. We reached number one on Flight Radar. Our Delore soaring social media reached over 100,000 views. Our tracker was followed from around the world, which of course sparked interest in the lengths that gliders can go and the capabilities. And that all came from Gliding New Zealand and the worldwide gliding community. It's something I've been nurturing for many years. Reaching these lengths was humbling as a result. And she goes on to say, and it's just a great memory, she talks about flying around Mount Aspiring National Park, Mount Brewster, and she talks about they start at the summit of Mount Brewster, about 8,200 feet, and right on the main divide with a magnificent view of the west coast. Having climbed, we now put the nose down, increased our airspeed, checked we're safe altitude, and then zoomed down the glacier. And as the glacier descends, we descend. And of course we've got speed on our side. We pull up at any point if we need to, but getting all the way down the glacier, screaming down, we hit the back in ridge lift, so obviously getting more lift, and we gain another 1,000 feet and zoom around and go down the glacier again, about 12 times, which is kind of fun. So, and that's good old New Zealand, right? So, yeah.
Now, one of the things reading the book that I observed was just how demanding some of the flying is that these folks are doing.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, they're not the only ones doing this demanding flying, but you look at it, and you're talking about someone flying, doing agricultural work.
Yes.
And I think it says in there 100 takeoffs a day.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. It's
well, there are people in the audience that have done that stuff.
Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny, working with NZ Aero now, the one thing I found with the top dressers, 17 per hour.
Yeah.
So 17 loads per hour, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, so you get a lot more takeoffs and landing in that work than you do flying 777
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and there's some pretty amazing FaceTime groups, especially in New Zealand. And just seeing some of these guys coming in, going again, coming in, and it's just a constant. I mean, I thought with towing gliders in the Pawnee, it was probably 5 to 6 minutes per tow. But yeah, I think these guys are even faster.
Yeah. And another sort of general question, with all these folks that you've interviewed, not just for this book, but for others, do you think that, I sort of quite often think about this in terms of, you've got a world champion tennis player, and you wonder how, half a dozen tennis players in the world can be just that much better than everyone else.
Yeah, true.
Does this apply to pilots? I mean, are pilots born or made, or what's the, I guess if you're flying, an F-27 or a Dash 8 or whatever, to and fro from one airport to another, then the only real challenges, I shouldn't say this, but the real challenges come up occasionally when the weather's extremely bad or you get an emergency. But in some of these other professions, like deer recovery, ag work, fighter pilots, etc., they're faced with challenges all the time, and sometimes it's only skill and ability that get them out of it. Yeah. So where does that come from?
It's a good question. It's funny, Eastie actually does talk about it with a very sad story about Muzz in Australia, and they're connected in the Skyhawks together. Yeah,
that's when they've got the air-to-air refuelling pod, and they're doing the aerobatic manoeuvre
up and over,
with 2 aircraft connected. At low level.
Yeah, and he does say, and he doesn't understand, because sadly Muzz went in, and he didn't. And. He still doesn't. He didn't understand it either. He goes, was it because he's a natural? I mean, he's an amazing pilot, or is it born or is it bred? I'd like to think I was an awesome pilot always, but when I started, I don't think I was a good pilot. And I think over time, the training, the influence, the meeting other pilots and talking, the hangar chats, the hangar chats we have. I think it is bred, but there's definitely people that, as everyone said, you've met Eastie, different person. different league. You know, so yeah, I think it's a mix.
Yeah, well, talking about learning then, if, you've learned some lessons yourself in flying, have you? And
yes.
Can you think of just one or two examples of things that you've suddenly thought, oh shit, I'm in trouble here, etc.?
Yeah, it's very, you know, I guess, and that's why I thought I'd wear that, right? Trust me, I'm a pilot. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? And so, yeah, I think, you know, most pilots have a bit of an ego. I think, was it Top Gun? They said, you know, we like that in a pilot, a bit of ego, bit of arrogance. But it's amazing when you do stuff up, how humbling it is to go, yeah, I was an idiot. I should have done that, should have done that, should have done that. In fact, and the whole reason for these books, one, my wife, she writes real books. She's an author.
Is that she inspired you to start writing books?
Inspired or pushed? No, look, she, you know, and yeah, we're actually coming up 25 years, August the 14th. So no, she did inspire, but you know, and she was getting frustrated saying, hang on, you've met all these people, you've done all this stuff, you know, I sell books and I do really well, and I'm going, yeah, but I don't know, what am I going to write about? I feel I haven't got really much to give. And it wasn't till, ironically, Omaka, so just down the road, we flew down on a 172, we put all our camera gear in, we were coming down to the air show, which, by the way, is one of the best air shows. I've been to a lot of air shows around the world. Omaka, unbelievable, one of the best air shows. And we flew down, filmed all our stuff, got all the stuff going, jumped in the plane, had a chat to some of the Act 52 guys, and he said, oh, Fletcher, if it's really nice, try, you know, get Ohaki to clear you through. And of course you get to see all the great hills, mountains, I should say. And we did, and it sort of felt good, and then it was suddenly like, oh, that's cloud up ahead. Okay, because I'm flying VFR. And this is before GPS, so it's literally compass, and of course we start hitting turbulence, and of course the compass goes like this, and the DI is not the best, you know, so the DI, you kind of are meant to change it depending on the compass, but the compass is doing this, and I'm going, yeah, which way's north? So, and of course we're getting into valleys, bit of cloud, and I said to Malcolm, I said, I reckon we need to go that way where the sun is, and then you could see these little shafts of light, and I was going, okay, let's go right. And I do remember getting on the radio to Ohaki, and they were very good. And probably my first thing I didn't ask, I was a little bit proud to go, oh, okay, so we're near Martin, okay, cool, awesome. Looking at the map going, where's Martin? And I said, all right, well, let's just keep going this way. And of course we pop out, beautiful sunshine. It's going, wow, Taupo looks big today. It's a big, God. So I remember saying to Malcolm, God, this Lake Taupo's big, isn't it? Wow, it's amazing. Oh yeah, that's there. And I was going, well, the map hasn't been updated for a while. So there's houses. God, those houses must have been built fast. And I look, you know, and it's funny, in human factors, right? They teach us, and that, you know, even the Erebus incident.
You'll see what you want to see.
See what you want to see, and my brain was going, God, those houses went up fast. God, building is awesome in New Zealand, isn't it? And I'm literally telling myself we're in Taupo. And guess where we are?
You've told me already.
Yeah, Napier. A little bit different, isn't it? And literally I'm going, and of course next minute I'm on the, you know, next minute I get this radio call, because I'm going, hang on, you know, and it did start to click, right? I'm going, hang on, this doesn't feel right, you know, because, and luckily I did that, because or else we would have ended up in Argentina, I think. And luckily, you know, radio got hold, and he gave us a great course to Taupo to fuel up. So I got back, and of course I rang Adam, who's a good friend and instructor, and actually we own the Citabria together. So he's 777 pilot now.
What's a Citabria?
A plane. Citabria is backwards for aerobatic. Awesome American tail dragger, like a Cub, Piper Cub.
Sounds like some sort of thing you'd have for breakfast, doesn't it, Rick?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, bit of Citabria. Yeah. But we call them gentlemen's aerobatics. We can land it. We tow banners, so we do advertising banners around Auckland. Tow gliders, I tow gliders from Drury in it. So it's a bit of a Swiss Army knife aircraft. Pretty awesome. We get a lot of value from it. But we're flying the 172, and I said to Adam, I said, look, I screwed up, busted airspace. I'm going to get a letter. they're going to come after me. And he said, okay, just calm down. Write your story down and write down what you learned. And when they do come knocking, at least you can show you've learned from it and worked out what to do. So, of course, I did that. And luckily my wife kept pushing me and I went, oh, hang on. Story, learnings, lessons. I've interviewed a few pilots, got a few stories. Maybe that's what we can do. So that was the first book, which was 81 lessons. 101, which was commercial, because I felt there wasn't a lot in the market around commercial airliners. I had them combined as one book, and of course all my friends that flew commercially and GA or general aviation said, no, there's some commercial pilots that don't fly, and there's some GA pilots that don't fly commercial, so just split them. And within 2 months we had 2 books. And again, my wife, we really pushed for the US market, and that's where we've sold 83 to 87% of our sales are in the US for those books.
You've got a few more people over there, haven't they?
Yeah, 350,000 general aviation aircraft versus 3,000 in New Zealand. The US. And I've just recently got back New York. We went up to upstate, went across to Johnson City to see the Blue Angels. Mike Goulian, I don't know if he was a Red Bull Air Race pilot. So he's going to be interviewed for the next book. So it's going to be an American version from the pilot seat. So this was the testing ground, New Zealand. It's gone really well. We're at the 3rd or possibly 4th reprint, which, who knew aviation was cool?
Yeah, and you were telling me that Christmas is coming up, and that's...
Yeah, amazingly, my books, during Christmas, it goes... Kirsten's books are like this, sales, and then my books are below hers. And then they pop up like crazy, so December just goes through the roof. So what we believe is obviously great Christmas gifts. Yeah, pretty amazing.
You could put Father Christmas on the front of the next cover.
Yeah, exactly, definitely.
Yeah. Another thing that sort of came to mind was I've looked at not just the people that you've interviewed for this book, but others, and I mean some of them are extremely famous people, and I wonder how you go about. Do you do a Peter Beck on them, where you go and knock on the door and say, "I want to see your rockets," or how have you gone about this? And have you got some stories that?
Oh, definitely stories. I guess I collect people. It's amazing, as you know, it's amazing the people you meet. It's funny, I bumped into Des. I was in the Singapore Air Show working with Reliance, and next minute I go, Des, how you going? He goes, oh, Fletch, how's things? Just like that. So it's amazing who you bump into, who you talk to, who you have a beer with, who you start talking. I guess that's the great thing about the industry is the conversation about flying planes or aircraft, and then it just leads to something else. The reason Terry Delore is in there is I towed Terry at Drury during his escapade, which was pretty amazing. This massive aircraft, this huge wingspan, 26 meters, and because I said, hey, you've got because he's actually got a engine on it, and I said, you want me to tow you? Or he goes, no, we need to be towed. And so it was pretty interesting. Now, the only reason I got to Terry is because I knew Simon Galt, of course, restaurateur, but loves flying planes. I got my first coffee machine through Simon. Simon said, Simon, hey, it'd be great to have you on the book because, Thunder Mustang and all the flying you've done. And he said, no, you need to come meet Terry. And of course, next minute, we're having a beer and the stories, I'm going, I need to record this. I said, look, I'll ring you. It's amazing. People in America, I work with entrepreneurs around the world, and they all know, because I keep telling them, I love aviation, I love it. And they go, oh, I know someone that knows someone that knows someone. Funny story, I'm in Greece, in Athens, we're at dinner, and I'm meeting this lady, she's local, and we're sort of talking, and I said, any chance you know anyone in aviation? She goes, oh, that's a weird question. My husband flies A320s. I went, oh, awesome. What's his name? And so, and I said, oh, I'd love to go flying, any chance to go flying in Greece. She goes, oh, give me 24 hours. And so then I get this text going, hey, be here at this time. He'll pick you up. And it was just like this little Fiat Bambino thing, right? I'm going, it's quite a big guy. And I'm going, okay, we'll get in this little car. And we zoom off down probably a few hours drive. It was close to where 300, the Greek 300 movie was filmed. I only know that because at 6,000 feet, he goes, oh, check this out. So we looked down, straight down. That's where the 300, the battle, that was actually going, cool, thanks. Back up. So we're flying a Pipistrel, which is an amazing aircraft, very small, compact, but with big wings. So it's a bit of they started designing gliders, and of course then they went, let's put an engine on it. So it was a bit of a hybrid glider and aircraft. And so next minute I'm flying through Greece, and the craziest thing, we're at 6,000 feet, and he goes, oh, check this out. Turns the engine off. I'm just going, okay. And he goes, no, it's all good. So of course we had this massive updraft. We got up to 8,000 feet, just zooming along the ridgeline. So yeah, it's amazing who you meet. And he was a ex, I think, a 747 captain, a lot older than the other gentleman, wife that I'd met. But yeah, it's amazing what leads to what, and who leads to what as well. So yeah.
So are they all accidental then? You haven't sort of gone and knocked on the old space
the US
door and said, I'm Fletcher from New Zealand, and you've got to talk to me.
I think I've tried that a few times, and they go, yeah, good luck. I have tried, and I'm going to keep trying to get with the American Defence Force. They do a media flight onto the one of the Navy ships, the aircraft carriers, and so I'm going to keep knocking because I know it happens, and I've got friends. So again, it's time as well. I mean, this is part time, sadly. So it is a mixture of I think I definitely push a little bit, but yeah, sometimes it's accidental. I mean, if I go through some of these names, like I rang a few, there's probably only one person that said no, which I was a little bit, it's like, wow, she said no, but she's pretty awesome, amazing aerobatic pilot, and I guess I love to get inspired, so, and sadly she said no, which I totally respect. But going through half of these, I mean, some of them have become really good friends. I guess the TV show really helped. So we'd be at an air show, we'd interview these guys with a microphone, because pilots like fluffy things and cameras, nothing to do with ego. And I guess that was the most amazing journey, was the 2007, the Avalon Air Show in Australia, and I said to my good friend, who was a great cameraman, Malcolm, I said, look, let's get some T-shirts made up, we'll print media on the back, I'll make up a website, I've got some friends in the state that have got a TV show online, and they'll write a letter saying, we've got distribution, because we had to prove to the Australian media that we were media, technically. So yeah, we kind of faked it. Didn't quite make it. I kept telling my wife, don't worry, we'll make millions. And she says, we're still waiting. But and I guess, we got to meet these people, and very open, and got their contacts. Because, I guess the key thing, Malcolm brought the side of the TV, so it was me literally going, hey, so tell us your story. And at the same time, in the background, we'd get them to sign waivers, and so I guess we did a lot of the background work as well. So we had the contacts, we could then talk to them afterwards and fill in the bits and pieces. So probably from that TV show. I mean, Mike Goulian, that I caught up with just recently, he said, yeah, I remember you interviewed me at Reno in 2010 for Discovery Channel. And that was the funniest thing. We said, hey, we're going to hopefully get on Discovery Channel. And so next minute, everyone at the air show goes, oh, there's these guys from Discovery. I was like, no, we're not from Discovery. We're hopefully going to be on Discovery. I was like, oh no, these guys are from Discovery Channel. Like, and then the end just go, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure.
Go with the flow.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I sort of hesitate to bring this up, but in your book, quite a number of the folks have actually been involved in accidents.
Yeah.
And some of them involve fatalities of family members
Yes.
or
Yeah.
colleagues.
Yeah.
And some of them there's no fatality, but massive injuries. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
John Martin.
And so but these are people telling their own stories of this situation.
Yeah.
Quite remarkable that they go. Is it John Martin, the one that spent 12 months in hospital?
Yeah.
And then comes out and goes back to flying.
Yeah. Keeps flying. Sets up a.
Would you like to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, and look, and John Martin was amazing. So, very disfigured face. We see him down in Tauranga, and because you try not to look, but you're going, wow. And of course, the first thing he goes, "Hey, how you going?" I was like, "Oh, I'm good," but massive smile and just a presence. And you're going, he goes, "Oh, you want to know what happened?" I was like, "No," because you're sort of going, "Oh, it's okay." He goes, "Oh, I'll tell you," and he goes into the story, and it was just like, we got to film you, we got to tell your story. And he goes, "Oh, I've already written a book." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, do you mind if we, do a TV, segment on it?" And I guess that was the hardest thing with the TV segments. They're only sort of 4 minutes to 5 minutes, whereas in the book I could sort of elaborate on some of the stories and actually talk about the stuff that we couldn't put in the TV side. Meeting John, just an inspirational guy and just so happy, and he'd built the skydiving business in Tauranga. Just a great Kiwi, just an awesome person. And, I guess I get inspired by these guys, and every time I'm having a bad day or I'm stuck in traffic and, angry, and I go, hang on, actually, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Because, hearing his story and what he went through. And the coolest thing was catching up. I flew down to Tauranga to catch up with Anne, finish off some of her story that we had, and John, and just getting an update. And so we went and had a coffee, and I said, "So what are you up to?" And he'd just finished filming. He said, "Fletch, it's pretty funny, with my disfigurement and what I've got, I was picked to be on TV." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I can't really tell you. But it was the TV series of Lord of the Rings, is it?
Yeah.
So the latest, was it Netflix or Amazon Prime? I can't remember. So he was chosen for that. So all these people with the disfigurements, he goes, "Oh, I'm a bit of a celebrity," which was, again,
the best of it.
Positive guy, right? Just so positive. And he said, I said, "What are you doing with your time?" And he goes, "Look, I play the guitar at the hospice, and just to try and help those people have a better life." So, pretty inspirational guy, what he went through. So,
yeah. Do you want to read another of your extracts there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. All right. What was another one I had? Has the video come up with Phil going round yet? Okay, good. Yep. Okay, good. That one. Actually, I'll do this one because this is quite cool. I have to pick this one.
Those are nice bright glasses you've got there.
Yeah.
Pilot's glasses for you, I suppose.
Yeah. So I went for my commercial medical, and they're going, "Oh, your eyes are just on the, you'll be, within 6 months you'll have glasses." I went, "No, I won't." I was like, turns out it's great getting old, isn't it? So early in 2021, a liquidation specialist who knew us through previous sales deal asked if we're interested in buying the assets of Pacific Aerospace. It's an iconic New Zealand-based designer and producer of rugged, reliable and versatile utility aircraft. The company had gone into liquidation February 21, having been sold 6 years prior in a 50-50 deal with a Chinese entity. Unfortunately, aviation businesses do require money to run. They don't run on love. So neither shareholder was prepared to put away any money and to pay 200 odd staff as they still developed the business. And of course, COVID came along, as everyone knows, and that was really the nail in the coffin for PAL. Because of the rules of aviation, the liquidators figured all the stock was worthless, and unless it was actually sold as an aviation business. So it was $12 million worth of scrap metal sitting in a store if they couldn't sell it as a going concern. We made a cash offer. Our bid was the only one with no strings. The liquidators accepted our offer on 27th April 21, became proud owners of a massive spare part inventory as well as buildings on a piece of land owned by the Waikato Regional Airport Limited, and that's in Hamilton. We had to apply for the CAA to get operating certificates, enabling us to trade. That process took 11 months, but we're now operating as New Zealand's only commercial aircraft manufacturer. At the time of writing, we were flight testing our PAC 750 with touchscreen Garmin glass cockpit, as well as our new aircraft, the Super PAC, which is the PAC 750 with a Pratt & Whitney 140A. It's kind of interesting, isn't it, that I know that? And already signed our first contract. So rather than seeing the company move offshore, they wanted to keep the manufacturing capacity in New Zealand. And if I go on to say the CT4, which they've just signed up more contracts in Thailand, so the Thailand Air Force still fly the CT4, which is a military trainer, and after 70 years of operation, the company's produced over 700 aircraft, of which around 400 are still actively flying and needing support around the world. The reason I thought I'd read that out is because in January of this year, I got approached by someone on LinkedIn, and I thought that's a bit weird. And I said, no, it's fine. I'm already selling aircraft. I'm pretty happy. And then, of course, I went, it might be an opportunity. And so next minute, I'm now working with NZ Aero, selling their aircraft. So
around the world.
Around the world, yeah. And that's the greatest thing is actually, for years I've tried to work with Trade and Enterprise. And they're very particular of who they work with. And finally, it's like open doors, and just the amount of support, New Zealand companies helping, New Zealand government helping New Zealand business. And we're gonna do some great stuff, which is pretty awesome. Now, the reason I read that out, it's Dee Bond. And she's actually just finished another air race. So she did air races around the world, which, again, pretty unknown in New Zealand. There's probably 1 or 2 air races a year. And just, getting Dee to talk about it, which, ironically, the HR company, when they got hold of me, I said, I've interviewed Dee Bond. And they said, okay, cool. Yeah. So I was going, maybe they know. No, they don't. So it was quite interesting. I'm just trying to think where she had... No, I can't find it. But again, her story around, air racing in the States, I guess looking for those adventures, which I think is pretty awesome. And a lot of the photos that you see up there are actually in the middle of the book. There's a few extra ones up there. Sadly, there's a few people that have passed on, mainly because of sickness. Actually, it was sickness. Brett Emeny sadly died just after we actually had the book in print. So it was very sad. Again, Brett Emeny, what an amazing person. I don't know how many aircraft he actually flew. And I don't know if anyone was there last night with my story, and Brett's story was the one that he said, Fletch, losing that engine, he lost an engine in a Hunter, which you've been for a ride in one.
Yeah.
So the Hunter, what's his name? Philip. I'm trying to think of his last name.
Dave Phillips?
Dave Phillips. Thank you. Sorry. Dave Phillips. And, just his story of losing the engine out over Tauranga. And luckily, again, I guess the inspiration behind Brett is, for me, is preparation. He spent a day sitting in that cockpit going through all the checks. Now, if he hadn't...
He would have been in deep doggy.
He would have been in the water. Yeah, and just hearing him... 3 ways you can reignite the engine, and the first one, no. Second one, no. Third one, as the hydraulics are freezing, basically locking. Here goes Fletch, yeah.
Just that motorbike noise was telling us that it's time for questions from the floor, but just before I do that, I'll just make one comment, and that is, you just mentioned the Emeny name.
Yes.
And there's so many of these folks that pop up, and they've got connections. And Brett's brother, Craig, older brother.
Yep.
He used to work for me in the Air Force years ago. One of the brightest young corporals you'd ever come across.
Yep.
Quite cheeky as well. He set up Air Chatham's.
Yes.
He's the owner, and they're just it's amazing. Some of these folks.
It is.
They must have it in the blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I flew to Chatham's and I went, I reckon that's Craig, because I saw this guy look just like Brett, right? I'm going, and I said to him, yeah, Craig Emily. He goes, yeah. And then I asked one of the lovely people, I said, any chance I could have a look at the, front cockpit? Because I'm going, well, it's not Air New Zealand, so they might say yes. And of course, they don't come back to me. And I said, come on, we're about to land. And she goes, come with me now. Okay, so close. And then they put me on the middle seat, closed the door, and then they said, by the way, under 10,000 feet, it's a quiet cockpit. I'm going, hang on, are we going to land? And then the funniest thing was, I was looking at this lady, I go, Ruth, is that you? She goes, turns around, Fletch, what are you doing here? She was my old CFI from Whanaupai. And I was just like, small world.
It is a small world.
Yeah.
Okay, questions from the floor.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I can't see anyone, so you might just have to ask. We've got a roving mic, I believe. There's, Tony, well-known, world-famous journalist. Aha.
Oh.
There we go.
Can you tell us more about the TV show?
The TV show? What would you like to know?
Well, you just mentioned it.
I did, okay. So we did the TV show 2007, 2010. We finally, I'd fly to the States a lot, and we'd actually get not funding. We were trying to get a distributor. So again, we wanted a US entity rather than New Zealand again, because, New Zealand won. TV3 and TVNZ said, that's great, awesome. Yep. And of course, nothing. So we went, right, we've got to go to the States. And so we went to the States. I'd turn up in dodgy motels for 60 US a night, thinking the rental's been stolen. And finally got a distributor. So 2010, and I remember the call, and it said, great, sign the deal. If you guys just put all the money into our bank account, we'll finish off the TV show and, we'll get it all done. And they said, what do you mean fill up your bank account? But I thought that's what the distribution part was, actually the funding as well. No, we'll sell it for you. And then very understanding wife let me mortgage the house.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I did say, don't worry, we're going to make millions. Going to make millions from this. Didn't quite do that. But you learn. And of course, my business partner borrowed money from his parents as well. We made the first HD TV show in New Zealand, so first high def. The bonus is we did sell it to Discovery Channel. Then Discovery Channel rang us up from Australia, and I said, hello, because we sold it to the States and all over the place. And they said, we want to have lunch with you. Okay, cool. And so we turn up to lunch, and there's this big guy that looks like Richie McCaw. Anyone met him? His hands are like massive. And I was just like, we'd like to redo your show, but with Richie McCaw. And we're going, cool. It sounds like fun.
They didn't ask you to pay half back, did they?
No, I did actually say, look, I've got a bank account that needs money. We didn't quite get to the second show because he kept playing rugby, which is a bit painful, but it was fun. Yeah, we had some fun. 61 countries. Any other questions? What do you reckon? So it was about aviation. So we did a mix of obviously characters in aviation from all over the world. We actually got a US. It was he was actually from Buffalo. So in Buffalo you have a mixture of Canadian and US accents. So we built it like it looked like an American show. And then Discovery, we redid it with Richie's voice for New Zealand and Australia. So the show was on, characters, air shows, air forces. So we got to play with the Air Force. Got to go to Dip Flat a lot. So hung out Dip Flat. They'd drop us off on a mountain, with all our camera gear, and then they'd fly away and fly towards us. So we did the NH-90s, the 109s, obviously the Iroquois. We did actually another exercise that was based out of Woodburn, and the C-130s. I'm trying to think of it. SkyTrain,
SkyTrain,
exercise SkyTrain. The coolest thing is like we're ready to film. We've got permission. Yep, we've got an SAS jumping that night. Yep, cool, awesome. Yep, we get on. It's all good. Yeah, okay, so you just can't film them as we're taking off. But that's what we're doing. We're filming it for the show to show these guys jumping out at 20,000 feet in the dark. Yeah, you just can't because it's going to show their faces. So we spent 2 hours sitting on and occasionally SAS guys, you want some oxygen? Yep, sure.
They just didn't give them a sort of a balaclava.
Oh yeah, was it the eyes thing or something? Yeah, so there was a bit of a mix-up, which happened often dealing with different militaries. So we got to film around the world. Air New Zealand actually helped us out. We used a lot of our air points as well, mortgaged. Mike Todd came in. He was the marketing guy at Air New Zealand, helped us with a few things. Again, it was just getting the word of aviation to the world, trying to show how cool and how different. We went to Reno air races. Sadly, some of those guys are dead. Probably the hardest one was the first, Pip Borman out of Australia, awesome pilot. He was he'd just built a new, I can't remember what it was something interesting, aerobatic aircraft, and, I got that text saying, he's passed away.
Yeah.
Hard.
Well, if there's no other questions from the floor, I'll just ask another one.
Yep, sure.
It's just ask you to give us your thoughts.
Yep.
If you look at the pilots that you've covered,
yes,
they go back to World War II.
Yes.
And right through to the F-35 fighter, which is very modern technology.
Yes.
Where do you see technology going?
Yeah.
Are we going to head towards the time where there are going to be no pilots? And
yeah, I'd like to say no.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I know Pacific Aerospace as well with the Chinese. They actually had a pack in China flying as a drone, which it's a big aircraft. The technology's there, I think. And when I got into my business of selling parts and then aircraft. A good friend of mine, Ben Marcus out of LA, he got into the drone side, and I was just going, and I played with drones, and I went, there's a business here, but I couldn't work out what it was, other than reselling drones, which I didn't want to do, and that's going back 10, 15 years ago. I think the challenge is, I think the military, yes, possibly. I think there's a few photos of me with Simo, so I went to 77 Squadron in Australia, F-35s, the clean rooms, I had to go through 3 different sort of things to, I literally had all these different bits and pieces on. And I was with the CEO of the squadron, and he had to take the photos because, I couldn't take photos, so he could take photos. But to get to the actual aircraft, they call it a clean room. So it's all data. They basically told someone without, clearances coming through. So all the screens turn off. They stop talking. I turn up. It's all a bit weird. Then I pop out the door to, of course, the F-35s, and seeing 50 F-35s, it's pretty amazing. Like just going 120 million, 120 million, 120 million.
US.
Yeah,
US dollars.
Yeah. And so the data, but as Simo was saying, the data, literally these aircraft are sitting on the ground talking. All the data between the ground stations and, of course, the 4, because that's what Simo talks about in the book, is how the 4, they hunt in packs. And it's all data-driven. And, of course, you probably know about the new drone in Australia. I forget the program.
The Triton, is it? Oh, sorry.
No, the wingman.
Oh, Loyal Wingman.
Yeah, Loyal Wingman. So they've literally got almost another F-35 packed with stuff that will literally fly on your wing as a drone, and so their data, what they're picking up, and then they use
It says, we've got this dirty job for your drone, you go and do this.
Yeah. And military, as you see, military, sadly, it's always the state-of-art technology first for military, and then it's followed into the commercial sector. So I think it's always going to be an issue with sign-off, CAA or FAA or. But I think Walmart are actually now delivering on Amazon, are actually delivering in the States. And I did see the real challenge, the biggest challenge with drone delivery in the States is people shooting them down with guns.
Wow.
I just
In America,
Yeah.
shooting it down with guns.
so these guys go, I'm going to shoot that down, and
Okay, well, I think we've actually just arrived at the time where I invite everyone to leave the room, but just wait for Fletcher, because he's going to go out there and sign books for you.
Yes.
And if you're looking for a Christmas present for someone, I'm told it's the ideal thing.
Yeah.
So thank you very much indeed for coming along, and thank you, Fletcher, for writing the book in the first place, and for coming down to Marlborough and talking to the group tonight. So
no, it's been great, and to hang out with Des is pretty awesome. And we're still paying off our mortgage, so if you do want to go and buy books, buy as many as you want. So but thank you. No, it's been great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Dean.